to the RunnerX podcast, where we talk about all things running. As many runners know, it's 90% mental. So join Coach Valerie and Coach Caroline as we go through the mental side of running. Welcome back, guys. So a couple of weeks ago, we did a fantastic podcast. I really enjoyed it, talking about Cadence. And we've had a few more people reach out with questions, which you can obviously do by reaching out to runnerx.fit or support@runnerx.fit. Just contact us with any of your questions. But Valerie, we had some additional questions come up with confusion about Cadence. Like, once I get to 180, where do I go from there?
It's a great question. So I always think about like a car. And if you're driving your car and you want to go faster and you hit the gas, the wheels spin quicker as you go faster. Well, so, your legs are your wheels and you want them to spin. And
Right.
So if you have that mindset, the elite sprinters, if you will, they've got cadences up to like 260 or higher.
Oh my God.
That's right. And then 180 is simply the minimum cadence baseline that we all need to use muscle elasticity. That's what the 180 is. So it's not like it's the end. It's just the baseline. And in the beginning, it can be challenging to get there, of course. But honestly, everyone that gets there will realize once they are there, then you start to adjust your gas pedal. So for what makes you happy, that could be 184. If you want to go running faster, it's going to be, again, you've got close to 300 to get to.
Yeah, I just had a bit of an aha moment when you said baseline. I don't know why it just suddenly hit me with the idea that anything under that, I'm not really using muscle elasticity, which is why it feels so hard and it feels so taxing and so what, right? It's why we hate running, which is a mental thing, guys. That's the whole reason why I have this podcast. But once we overcome that muscle elasticity, we're up in 180, above 180, wherever that is. That's when we're letting our body do what's natural and using that muscle elasticity. And that's when it becomes less hard and less taxing, right. Correct?
Correct. And what's really exciting, so people that run like, it can go like extreme, like people that run like ultra marathons, 100 miles and these longer runs, they have found that kind of in a natural way, that's the cadence that really lets them continue running these distances without like setting a watch to do that, right? And so it's amazing how once you start to actually train for that, not that you want to go run 100 miles, but to know that you could.
Yeah.
And so people have been working, just like you said, the effort most of us put into our run, once we start to take some of that away for you and let you just do the minimum you need, which is that little pull, that's when running starts to get more fun.
Right. And I think that's when it feels effortless. And that's when the next phase comes in, where you start getting a little bit obsessed, right? We feel that we have to run every day.
Well, but also I think the challenge is running is hard. Running is hard. I mean, it's your heart is pumping, your all of your muscles are working. It is an intense activity. So when I want to let people know, when we talk about running being easy or effortless, we don't mean you're out there just breezing along, but the effort is in how much you want to put in. Like, you're breathing hard, absolutely. And your legs, though, feel light. Like, there's no pain. It's more about, once you start to realize playing with the fall and using the elasticity, then the effort becomes how far you want to take that.
Okay, so this is going to be a segue into the fall, and a video I saw you post today, and it's on the 21st of February. If you want to go back to her her Instagram channel, or it might have been in the stories, which means it won't be up. I'll have to find it, put it on the Instagram channel. But it was a great little video you did showing stride length and how when you increased your fall, how it was amazing how far you traveled.
Right. And I could never jump that far.
Oh, no. And guys, I will definitely put it, maybe I'll even try to find a link to it. I'll put it on the channel, YouTube or whatever, put a link in the show notes, because it was amazing. You were probably a good 6 feet from the runner in front of you, and you put two lines and you just showed how you went from the pose into fall pull into the other pose. And
Right.
the distance was, it looked like it was probably 6 feet.
Well, and by the way, guys, just to be fair, like I'm not a sprinter by any stretch of the imagination, but because I'm very skilled at fall pull, I can run, for a short distance at a really high fall angle. And it's how I teach, and it's how I hold my own pose for longer distances. And it's something that is really important to talk about, because I know that when I first started running, I was told to push off my back leg and reach with my front. And if I wanted to run, if you wanted to run faster, it wasn't really so much about any kind of falling. It was about your effort, like pump your arms and reach and push and
I was
all
going
of
to say,
this.
pump your arms.
I mean, all of this action. So it's so weird. I didn't know, and maybe you don't either, that the acceleration part happens on the ground and the travel happens in the air.
Right.
And we try to mimic the air part on the ground. Like we're trying to look like we should look in the air on the ground. So that's why we're like all reaching our legs way forward, and we have no idea we're actually hitting the brakes. So we think we're extending our stride length, and it never, until you see it, like you said, that's why I try to draw those little lines. When you see it, y'all, it's really cool. I mean, you literally, all you do is nothing. You hold perfectly still and you pull your foot, and then you wait until you need to do it again. And that's the challenge, is like, wow, I didn't realize I needed to do less.
Right. And that's actually brings us full circle back to the idea of using gravity, using muscle elasticity, holding our frame, our core in the pose as we fall. It's not effortless. Like you said, you're still using your whole body. It's still challenging. I hate the word hard, but it's still challenging.
But it's the right movement. It's hard for the right reasons, right? Yeah.
And it's hard because you're challenging the cardiovascular and your heart and your body to do what it's meant to do, what it's born to do.
Thank you for joining us on the RunRx podcast. If you'd like to know more, join us at www.runrx.fit. And if you have additional questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, email us at support@runrx.fit.